Welcome everyone back to the podcast. We have a special guest, which is Jamie Harrison. She has a great background in education as a special ed assistant. And how's your day going, Jamie?
It's been well. I think it's been pretty relaxing today for the most part.
Yeah, especially where we stay at, it was actually decent weather and it wasn't too cold either, so you kind of enjoy the both of them. But
Yeah, I
in
definitely love
case,
this weather.
yeah, and it's fall time, so I see a lot of people with their jackets, their sweaters. So I'm like, perfect. Now people can take out their boots and stuff. So I
Yeah.
hear you on that. I did want to ask you. I know that you have a background in education. What would you
Mhm.
say is your difficulty as a special ed assistant?
Um, I would definitely say that just that's a good question. I would
Take
definitely say that the difficulty is being able to I think working with the kid, I think it requires a lot of patience, and I think there's definitely a lot of challenges that come with
Mm,
kids that have disabilities,
yeah.
um, and sometimes I can be tempted to respond in a way that I would normally respond to someone that doesn't have a disability.
Yeah.
So I think just it really challenges me to be mindful of just like the things that I say and even like the tone of my voice.
Mm,
Because again, when you're looking at kids that have disabilities, they're very sensitive to the things that we say, and the way that we say it,
mm,
and even just like thinking about like praising them and telling them like you're doing a good job like that. That's something that I'm constantly reminding myself to do. Like after they do their work, it's like, oh hey, you're doing a good job, like great job. Or if you sit for like 5 minutes, I'll give you this. But definitely disciplining them in that way so that it's not like I'm just disciplining you and I'm telling you what not to do. There definitely needs to be a balance, and yeah, I think that is ultimately like the challenge I think that
yeah.
comes with working with kids with disabilities. So yeah.
Yeah, I just was listening on the part where mentioned about tonality, and I was just like, yeah, the way you speak in your tone, it definitely does affect how people can respond. And especially like you're saying, the kids that you are managing is it definitely does take a toll on them if you speak to them in a very negative way. And I wanted to say, I'm sure that there's a hard part with the job, but I'm sure it's also very rewarding. What would you say is the rewarding aspect of just managing these kids and just being there for them?
Honestly, I think the most rewarding thing is the fact that I get to see them in a different light. I feel like these individuals are typically individuals are that are shunned from society, that are seen as like
Mm,
insignificant and not important. And I think that just really compels me to want to work with them and really seeing them in a completely different light than what society deems them as being in. So
wow, that's really awesome. And I hear you on that too. They're kind of society can be, this is like the part that no one really talks about. It's kind of out of sight, out of mind. And I
yeah,
remember also just growing up, middle school, high school, the kids that had disabilities would have different hours. They would come out like different lunch times earlier. And I'm just like, why is that? And then we
yeah,
kind of
yeah,
realize
yeah,
that even our education system, we're
yes,
not being taught like, hey, look, people that have certain stabilities, it's not communicated, it's not taught to us
yeah,
either. It's kind of ignored.
hmm,
And when you stumble upon someone that does have that, we're not the best equipped to handle it, like
no,
you're
yeah,
saying.
yeah.
And I want to ask you, why do you think that kind of like our society, or why is it that we ignore understanding people with disabilities?
I think for the most part, people are quick to assume a lot of things and really see
Mm,
people for the surface level at the surface level.
mm,
And I think it's just this very limited view of someone and just their capabilities. And being able to see them beyond their disability, I think that's ultimately what um, prevents us from really appreciating and really seeing it as um, individuals who are, they're full of strength, they're full of resilience. Like there's so many different things that you can say about someone with a disability, but again, I believe that we've been taught like, if you have a disability, you're not capable of doing so much.
Mhm.
And again, we limit our view of people in
Mm.
general, and just our understanding of them, to understand them beyond the surface and beyond what we see. So yeah, I think that's definitely part of it, and just the way society views them. And yeah, I think just being able to
Mm.
realize that they're human,
Yeah.
and they still have feelings, and they still experience life, maybe not the way we do, but again,
Mm.
it's being able to see them as individuals just like you and me, and not excluding them, or and thinking that because they have this disability, they're incapable of doing other things, that should be recognized and should be, honored and appreciated. So
Mm. Good stuff. And since you have a background in as a special ed assistant, for someone that does not come in contact with people that have disabilities often, what advice would you offer to people that are gonna about to enter some kind of education field with special ed, or maybe have to be around people that have disabilities? What advice would you offer to them to manage it better, or at least be more educated on it?
I think just having a more open mind to the
Mm.
person, and understanding that again, they're just like us. They
Mm.
have their basic human needs.
Yeah.
And because of that, there's more to them. There's more to them, and they have personality. Um,
Mm.
I think just coming in with a humble and compassionate heart to really see them beyond, what you see them as, beyond just the disabilities that you see them as, and thinking like, oh, they're not capable of doing this, or even just the idea of feeling bad for them, I think, but rather realizing that, it's, I don't know, just realizing that they're able, like,
Mhm.
there's so much that they can offer that, we're not able to see because we're looking at, the surface of things.
Mm.
But yeah, just coming with a humble heart, and just realizing like, hey, like, even though this person has a disability, like, there's so many things to this person besides this disability, that really allows them to, I don't know, be seen in a different light, and
Mm.
being able to understand that we all have, like, there's more to us than just the surface of things.
Yeah.
There's more to us, and I don't know, like my cousin, he has a disability, and I've had the privilege of working with him,
Mm.
but for the most part, it's been the most rewarding and the most humbling experience, in realizing, apart from being blessed, this individual, he has such a great personality, and he's always smiling, and it's great to see that, like, despite, his disability, he's able to still have joy, and he's able to still, um do things in such a way that he's persevering, and he's showing resilience. So yeah,
Mm.
think just with a humble heart, being able to be humble, and seeing the person in a different lens than you would typically see them, or that society,
Mm.
typically shows them as being a part of. So
Wow, very cool. And I just want to say thank you for serving the community in this way. Like a lot of people may not see the work that you're doing, but definitely does help out. And like you said, people with disabilities are often ignored. You're able to give them that attention that they need. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
yeah, and going along just serving the community, how do you feel like this job has really impacted you and your character?
Um, yeah, I think, again, I feel like it's given me more of a desire to want to work with individuals, that are typically ignored. It's
Mm.
given me the desire to want to be a voice to individuals,
Mm.
that are kind of shunned from society, and bringing that light to them, and bringing um, that truth, and understanding like, hey, they have a story too.
Yeah.
And there's more to what meets the eye. I think it's definitely softened my heart, to really appreciate what I've had, what I have, and just my daily life of being able to get up every day,
Mm,
being able to talk, being able to walk, and yeah, being able to do like mundane things that we typically sometimes take for granted.
yeah.
Um, so I think it just really opened my eyes and softened my heart in that way, to appreciate the things that God has
Mm,
given me in this, you know, in this life that I can easily take for granted. Because I'm like, I already do it. Like it's natural to me. But again, when it comes to someone that has a disability,
mhm,
it really allows me to see like, hey, it's actually not that's not the case. Like it's actually
mm,
something that you need to learn.
yeah.
So yeah,
Wow, that's really cool. And thank you for sharing all of that. I know you mentioned about a little bit of your faith in there as well.
yeah,
Kind of what led you to go in that direction of just having kind of God be in your life? Because I know you're mentioning how you're more grateful. I'm sure that's one aspect of it, of your
yeah,
faith. And I agree. Honestly, like you said, there's some things that we can take for granted. I could take for granted, like walking, like you said, even my vision. I may be wearing glasses, but I know that at least I could still have that 2020. And I just just hearing that was really like warming my heart as well. But going back to
Mhm.
it with just faith, what made you get started and go in that direction? Or if you don't mind me asking, what is more of your faith background?
I think for me, definitely relationships.
Mm,
Being able to being able to have a relationship with individuals, but also directing individuals to God. Um, so yeah, I think definitely relationships, and being able to play that role
mm,
in different relationships, in order for them to really see and understand just the importance of having a heart of compassion, having a heart
right.
of just love and patience. And yeah, because I feel like um, that was definitely something that I can say I struggled with just growing up. But I think mostly one thing that I've learned from just God is just love, being able
Mm,
to love individuals regardless. I think regardless their background, regardless whether they agree with me or not,
yeah.
um, whether they see things the way I see things.
Mm,
Yeah, I think God's love definitely really is the foundation in me wanting to build a relationship, not only with God, but also with individuals in this way.
mm.
Um, so,
Wow, very, very cool. And I
mm.
was gonna say, kind of like, what led you to ultimately deciding to, study out the Bible and know more about God? Or did you just happen to, check out a church randomly one day?
No, it's really a long story. um,
Yeah.
but basically, I had got reached out to a while back. I used to go to Pomona, but I got reached out by someone. And at the time, I was praying and kind of asking God, like, I need spiritual mentors. This
Mm,
is my prayer. I
yeah.
basically said, like, I need spiritual mentors because I just feel completely lost and I just desire to be able to be led spiritually.
Mm, yeah.
And that same week, someone had reached out to me,
Yeah.
which was really great. And I didn't really know what was going to unfold.
Mm,
But a few days after, with, like, I got connected with the church over there in
mm,
Pomona. And then came back home and I was like, okay, I don't really know what's going to happen.
yeah.
But then the same person that had reached out to me is literally like not that far from me. But
Mm,
she had got me connected with everyone. And that really opened so many doors. I think just being transitioning from Pomona back to home was definitely a challenge for me.
mm,
But it definitely grew me a lot to really understand that my security, my confidence wasn't in relationships. It wasn't in, the church in Pomona. it was in God.
Mm,
And I think, yeah,
yeah.
that was ultimately what led me to say, okay, I need to step back and just take a leap of faith.
Mm,
Because at the time I was like, I don't really know the people back home, because I
mm,
studied the Bible with people in Lighthouse. And yeah, I think I was just like, I don't really know what's going to happen with these relationships. And that was kind of my fear. But I feel like God was definitely moving.
mm.
Again, he just opened my eyes so much to see that he was behind the scenes. And that really just motivated me even more to grow closer to him, and to really know him and to really understand who he was. So yeah,
Wow, thank you so much for sharing that and your journey overall. And it's interesting, like you said, it's like your faith was not in people or in a group or whatever it was. It was ultimately in God. And it's better to have your faith rooted in that than just, people ultimately. And it's funny because earlier you were saying you struggled with relationships, but yet you managed to keep the most important one, which is with God. And going
yeah,
back to that, for introverts that do struggle with connecting
yeah.
with other people or relationships, what advice would you offer to them?
I think, as far as me, because I'm very introverted, I definitely love people, but I get most of my energy when I'm alone.
Same.
But I think one thing that I definitely have learned, especially during quarantine,
Mhm.
is the fact that just because someone's not reaching out to me, just
Mm,
because someone's not initiating, doesn't necessarily mean that they don't care or they don't want to
mm,
build a relationship with me.
yeah,
I think just challenging yourself to put yourself out there, regardless of just the thoughts of, you know, oh, this person doesn't care about me, or this person doesn't care about me.
yeah,
So yeah, I think just challenging yourself in that aspect, to really be willing to put yourself out there, and understanding that the people that God wants to be in your life, they're going to be placed in your life regardless. And just, yeah, just going with that with a humble heart, and understanding we all have our different struggles and different challenges. And we all get busy.
yeah,
And just because someone doesn't reach out to you, or isn't constantly initiating, doesn't necessarily mean that they don't want to build a relationship with you. But yeah, just being able to take the first step, versus waiting for someone else to take the first step, is something that I definitely had to learn, in order to see that, okay, I'm introverted, but at the same time, there's so many different ways that I can, push myself to be, you know, to be more relational, I think, versus kind of just in my bubble. Because I
mm,
think, yeah, I think sometimes I can easily just be like, okay, they're good. But because of that, I feel like, again, during this time,
mm,
I've been challenged to think the complete opposite. Like, okay, I need to start initiating.
yeah.
So
Crazy how you mentioned that of saying like if someone doesn't reach out to you, it's not because they're ignoring you. Sometimes, like I just think the scripture Jeremiah 17:9, for the heart is the most deceitful above all things. And it's
yeah,
true, sometimes our emotions can take us to a different place or different thought and just start assuming things. But
yeah,
sometimes that's not the case. Maybe the people are just busy, or you yourself can be busy too, and it's just there's a loss in the communication. And I'm glad that you
yeah,
have that heart to be like, you know what, I'm still gonna make an effort to reach out the
yeah.
best I can.
Hmm.
And like you said, ultimately you'll find those relationships or friendships that will be there for you and continue to do
Yes.
that. So thank you for sharing that. Definitely the part of just put
Yeah.
yourself out there and
Yeah.
ultimately don't give up, because when you give up,
Yeah,
it's
don't give
that's
up.
when you fall short.
Yeah,
Mhm.
even with people that don't respond, like, still don't give up. Like, still don't give up. Still have the heart to, you
Mm,
know, take risks, take that risk. Again, and understanding that the people that God wants to place in your life are going to be placed
yeah.
in your life. So,
Good stuff. Yeah, there's a season for like, people to come in and come out and just to
yeah,
better equip you in your circle. And
yeah,
the other part of just on the challenges of relationships, I also know that you're a bit involved in leadership too, trying to get things involved in your small group in church. And I'm sure you also do leadership as well at work. What do you feel like is something that you would offer as tips to introverts that are trying to get into a leadership position?
Definitely don't be afraid to speak up.
Mm,
Don't be afraid to, I would say, lead with no experience. I think something that I had to learn is that I didn't really have to have the experience to lead,
mm,
but I needed to have the heart. So I think just having the heart to lead is something that you need to focus more on versus, oh, I don't have the experience. What if this happens? What if that happens? Or I'm not going to be good at this. I'm not going to be good at that. So yeah, I think just keeping that in mind when it comes to leading. And again, when you present your ideas, don't be afraid if people don't agree with you, because
mm.
again, you're growing and you want your relationship with others to grow as well. So, you know, allow there to be room and an environment in which you can agree and disagree with someone, and um, letting them know like, hey, this is what I think, or you know, being open to suggestions. So yeah, I think also being open to suggestions is something that I definitely have to challenge myself in when leading. Again, not just closing off because the person doesn't agree with me, but being willing to listen and being open to the suggestions of the group, because that's ultimately what has allowed our group to grow. I think as far as leadership, it's being able to see things not only through my lens but also through the lens of others. And yeah, there's so many ways that I feel like we've been able to grow because of it.
Yeah, that was a lot of like just really good information that you shared about leadership. And like you said, you have a voice. And another thing too you mentioned was overall like how you're in a place where both of you guys, like say in a group where there's room to agree and disagree. Because if it's just everyone agreeing with each other, then you really can't grow and you really can't see the blind
Yeah,
spots, you know?
yeah,
But
yeah, yeah,
that was definitely key on that. And I wanted to ask you
yeah,
too. Usually, as I wrap up the podcast, I usually like to end with this topic. COVID-19 has been a crazy time for everybody. What do you
yeah.
feel was the biggest lesson you've learned from COVID-19?
Patience. I feel like that's probably what everyone else is saying, but I definitely feel like God is challenging me in my patience, to really wait on his timing in pretty much every aspect of my life. I think just the patience to graduate, the patience to see just the different ideas and the different visions that I have for my group to come to pass. Um, yeah, and even just the different visions and dreams that I have for my family to come to pass, and just, you know, being able to be a light in my family,
Hmm.
um, as well being able to be a light in my community. But yeah, it's definitely patience. I would say that over the time, I feel like God is definitely teaching me patience.
Wow, good stuff. And before we're wrapping up the podcast, any shout outs to anybody?
I don't know. Rosie, I guess, yeah. I would definitely like to give Rosie a shout out. Lorena, she's awesome. I love them so much. They're awesome. I feel like they've definitely been my backbone during this quarantine. And I'm just really grateful for them. And yeah, and my family, of course. I love my family. So yeah.
Awesome stuff. And thank you, Jamie, for sharing a lot of great tips and just overall your experience and just, the special ed education as well as in leadership. I'm definitely, hopefully, the listeners are able to pick up on all of that. And I'll share more of, your information, your Instagram, so people could check out your stuff. And again, thank you, Jamie, for being on here. And we'll be wrapping up the podcast. Thank you so much, guys.